What is up, people? It is me, Monster58, and welcome back to another video review. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the HIYA Toys Skulldevil from the movie Kong Skull Island in the Monsterverse, otherwise known as, obviously, the Skullcrawler, but I don't think they can officially call it the Skullcrawler because I don't think they have the rights. But taking a quick look at the box here, you can see some really awesome Kong Skull Island. You can see Skulldevil action figure, the HIYA Toys logo right there. You can see the Skullcrawler, Skulldevil, right? Skulldevil product shots right there. You can see some more nice, kind of hard to see, my apologies for this, but Kong Skull Island there. You can see some more nice screenshots from the actual figure, like product shots of it. And then finally, here is the back, and here's all of HIYA's information, and here's obviously a little bit more product shots. But yeah, when it comes to the box, there's really not too much about the box, but I will say it does look very nice. It has this very beige, it's there's a world map. It looks really, really good. So at the end of the day, that's it for the box. So without further ado, alrighty folks, here we have the HIYA Toys Skulldevil out of the box, and I gotta say that this thing looks really, really good. I mean, like, this is pretty much as on-screen accurate as you can get. I do think that in the movie, the back parts of these guys looked a little bit lighter than it actually is in the figure, but at the end of the day, this is a fantastic representation of how the Skullcrawlers looked in the movie. And when it comes to these things, the thing I think people forget is that they were only two-legged. They only had two legs, so it's like, why is there no back legs? Well, that was the design, and these things could walk on their front legs. Now, I did end up picking up two of these, and you'll see that at the end of the review, mainly because that there were multiple skull crawlers, and I think they look cool as sort of troop builders, army builders. But at the end of the day, this looks really fantastic. So taking a look at the details, you can see that head is gorgeous. I mean, like, look at all that molded in detail, and look at all the paint in there. Like, that's awesome, man. And then look, you see the little eye there. You can see what would be an eye socket, but obviously there's no eye in that hole right there. But just looks really, really good all around. Like, I'm not complaining about anything there. And then it just looks good across there. You can see all of this awesome skin texture detail, these ridges here on the spine area of the figure. Taking a look at the arms here, you can take a look, more nice details there. More nice details going through the forearm, this nice spike here on the elbow, and then nice feet detail with the claws and everything. I mean, these are sharp. These are sharp. Like, that hurts, and this hurts too. Like, there's no denying this looks good. And taking a look at the tail and the back area of the figure, you can see some really, really nice molded detail throughout. I mean, it's a gorgeous figure. Like, we're not going to deny that. It's very gorgeous. And even these spikes here on the tail, these are actually pretty, like the sharper points, these are actually really sharp. So be pretty careful handling this. Luckily, this part at the end of the tail actually isn't. But overall, when it comes to the details of this thing, I mean, it's really, really amazing looking. And so, without further ado, I think the best thing to do is to actually do some comparisons. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set the Skullcrawler here off to the side. Here it is with the SH Monster Arts Kong from Godzilla vs. Kong. And yes, I'm going to say this and address this right now. I understand in the lore, but if you guys don't understand it, maybe you'll learn something new. But essentially, in the Kong Skull Island movie, that was a juvenile Kong. And so he was 150 feet tall or so. He's about half the size, less than half the size he is now, which is about 300 feet or so, obviously, to match Godzilla's height. But yeah, I know that, obviously, the Skullcrawler should be much smaller in comparison to this specific Kong. But who cares? It's your toy. Just display it with, like, the intention of displaying it how you want. And so for me, this is just Kong, this is a Skullcrawler, and I think that these two scale really well together. This is, I think, how they would have scaled in the movie, and I really, really do enjoy how this looks. Like, that's a really nice scale overall, and I'll definitely take some awesome pictures of these. Actually, I haven't taken any pictures of these two together yet, so you'll definitely see maybe me messing around with doing pictures with both of them. So really, really nice scaling, and I'm very, very, very happy with it. The other scaling I wanted to bring in here is the SH Monster Arts Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong. And the reason I wanted to do this is just so you can see the idea of how these scale with SH Monster Arts stuff. Obviously, HIYA is meant to be a competitor to SH Monster Arts in that 6-7 inch scale-ish, right? Maybe 8 if you wanted to argue around that scale. All the figures are somewhere around 6 inches or so. And so this is how these two look together, and I think they look good. Now, at the end of the day, we didn't really have any on-screen comparisons directly of a Skullcrawler versus Godzilla. The closest we got was in the Godzilla versus Kong movie when Mechagodzilla ends up killing a Skullcrawler that whatever that company captured that built Mechagodzilla. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an idea of how these two scale together, and I think in reference to Kong, I think these two scale very fine together. Alrighty, folks, time to get into the accessories. There aren't any, and that's where this figure has a big fault. That's my biggest fault with this figure, is it doesn't come with anything. But the counter argument is that obviously the Skullcrawlers didn't really do anything. With Kong, you can give him his axe. That's a very fair accessory. With Godzilla, even though he didn't come with accessories really besides maybe interchangeable hands, the new Godzilla X Kong SH Monster Arts comes with a atomic breath effect part, which is nice to have finally. God, it took them so long to actually do that. But for me, it would have been nice to have maybe a display base with this guy, you know, maybe like a swampy display base. Another thing that they could have done, maybe a rock or a boulder would have been cool, because I know that they did grab, if I remember, they did grab those in the movie. Or the big one for me, I think the forefront runner is the fact that they could have had a separate head, and that could have had a elongated tongue, because in the movie, if you recall, when Kong is fighting like the Queen Skullcrawler at the end of the movie, she ends up like extending her tongue kind of like a snake, you know, wrapping its prey, you know, like a constrictor snake, and she ends up like wrapping her tongue around Kong's neck, you know, about to eat him or whatever, you know, bite off his head, whatever she wanted to do. But yeah, I would have liked a accessory or an accessory, something like that, but it's not bad that it doesn't come with it. It's just I wish it did come with something. Again, this isn't, in my opinion, this isn't a case of comparing it to SH Monster Arts, because they've had Godzilla numerous amounts of times and just refused to put an atomic breath effect part with him for so many figures. With this guy, again, they don't really necessarily have to put anything for this guy for accessories or give anything to him, just due to the fact that didn't really do any special abilities besides the crazy extendable retractable tongue, right? So I'm not really mad about that. So with that out of the way, let's get into the articulation, which is really, really solid. So the head, so I'll show you the detail in the mouth actually when we open. So the mouth can open, and you can see it's made out of this like elastic material, like the membranes here on the side of the mouth, and that's amazing because it really is like, how do I describe it? It really gives a more sense of realism when it comes to these guys opening, especially if you look at their mouths in the movie. This is a real awesome thing to do, and I actually wish SH Monster Arts would do this more, and Bandai would, but the tongue detail's crazy. You can see the nice teeth as well. I mean, it's all really well done, but yeah, the mouth can open and close, and then you do get some, so you have a ball joint here at the base of the neck, and then you have a ball joint here at the base of the neck, and here at the base of the neck, sorry, and then a ball joint here towards the head, so you can get some decent movement. Nothing crazy, but again, these guys didn't have the most dynamic movements. The most dynamic movements they had were in their arms. So their arms, you can do a full 360 with these. They do bend here. They also have a rotation here. They also have a bend here as well. You can see it's on a hinge right there. So very nice. You can bend right there as well. The feet are also rotation. Now, I will actually call out HIYA for something that it really does stink. Now, when it comes to more of a third-party company, this ends up, coming with the territory, but I'll bring in the other one I have. So the other one I have, unfortunately, this is really loose. Like that's really loose, and it comes off, and it doesn't like to stay pegged on very well, and that really blows. Like, I remember like picking up the box when I got it in the mail and was kind of annoyed that I heard that rattling. I was like, oh, maybe it's a head accessory, because I've been keeping up with this guy's release, but it is a shame that is the case. It's not awful. I don't know. It's not the worst thing ever. It's something to complain about, though. The articulation, you do have a little bit of play here as well, because this whole part of the body here is also a joint, and then you also have some play here. Now, this is my other major issue with this figure, is the tail. Don't get me wrong, it's a bendable wire, and so you can really get some awesome stuff with this thing, like awesome articulation with this thing. It's very similar to how they did Rodan's wings from 2019, right, from King of the Monsters. So that's really cool, but my issue with this is how will it hold up over time? I remember I watched the reviewer Diego Doom, so if you guys don't watch him, he does a lot of like kaiju giant mech figure robot review, robot monster reviews. Go check him out. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. One thing he pointed out was like, will this last over time? And for me, I kind of agree, because it's like, I'm also scared that at some point this wire will snap due to you bending it a lot, and so it might end up like piercing through the actual figure. And obviously that's going to be, due to stress or doing it over and over again, right? And I won't be really touching this once I put it in my display case. But yeah, it's something to worry about, especially if you mess around with your figures a lot. So just be wary of that. I definitely prefer like the ball jointed tail that we have here with Godzilla. I definitely prefer this style of tail in comparison to this, because at least it's easier to put the ball joints on. With this, it's my scares the longevity over time. It's still really nicely articulated, just something to note of. Now the one thing I wanted to address is, can he stand on his front legs? Not really. There's so much weight here, particularly right here, I can feel it in the base of the tail, that he doesn't really stand well. You'll definitely need a stand if you want some of the like really awesome dynamic poses you can get with this guy. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame he can't, but I understand why. So at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? So that's about it for the articulation. Okay guys, so for my final and concluding thoughts on the HIYA Toys Skulldevil, otherwise known as the Skullcrawler from the movie Kong Skull Island in the Monsterverse. I gotta say, this is a pretty fantastic figure, despite its few flaws. Very few flaws, but it does have them. First flaw I'm going to point out, in my opinion, the biggest one, is going to be, for me, the QC on his hand. Now, I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this. I haven't really watched too many reviews on the Skulldevil, but it is a bit of a shame that the Skulldevil, that, the wrist on that one, this one in particular, has a loose wrist, because guess what, they only have 2 legs to stand on, and so it really sucks to have a loose wrist. He does stand okay still, but at the end of the day, you can definitely feel it when you're trying to pose him in certain ways. Other drawbacks, lack of accessories. I do think that, even though I understand why, at the same time, I would have liked a display base, maybe a rock or a boulder as a, throwable item or something like that. Or the other thing would have been a alternate head with extendable, retractable tongue, or just a head with an alternate head with a different length of tongue, as they did express in the movie, because again, these guys didn't have any real major special abilities or anything like that. The other last drawback is definitely the wire in the tail. I'm not a fan of that, would prefer ball joints. I'm just scared of its longevity over time, but it is articulated well. And so getting into the good, let's talk about the good. So speaking of articulation, the articulation's fantastic. The paint is also fantastic. The sculpt is also very, very good. I really, really love it, and I think they did a fantastic job of recreating what we saw in the movie in toy form. The other really good thing about this thing, the price. You have to understand, SH Monster Arts figures are like double the price of these things, or close to, they're like 50% more, arguably, at the very least, right? So, some of the lower ones were like in the 90s, but you start to get into the hundreds, 120, 130, for the price of, I think, around 60, 70 bucks a piece for these. I think I paid 140 in total for the 2 of these things. Maybe it was 120, it was something around there. I'll put it on screen right now. This is really awesome value, and I think HIYA is doing a really good job of offering us pretty much arguably better SH Monster Arts figures. The only reason I got the SH Monster Arts ones is because I do like the brand at the end of the day, and even though I know that they are screwing up in more ways than one, I did like... It was hard for me to transition into a new company right away until I've bought more stuff from them, but at the same time, that was all I knew. I didn't know even HIYA existed, so... very, very happy to have these in the collection as some extra villains to put on my shelf. So, I did pick mine up. Out of 10, actually. I'm going to give this thing a 9. Even though I did list 3 drawbacks, they're not enough, in my opinion, to warrant taking 2, 3, 4 points off this thing. 1 point I think is reasonable, because otherwise this thing is an amazing figure. So I did pick mine up on the Big Bad Toy Store, so I'll leave a link in the description to that. I'll see if you can find it on Amazon. I don't know if you'll be able to find this on Amazon, but if you do, I'll leave a link in the description to that as well. So links to all of those will be down below, or just Big Bad Toy Store, depending on what I find. But yeah, I think that's about it. So I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Also follow me on the socials. Those will be linked down in the description below. And with that, I once again thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.